Welcome to the Music Journal podcast, where we talk about the hottest things happening in music right now, and also how you can apply it if you're an aspiring producer or musician yourself. I'm your host, Wes Yee. I'm a producer, artist, and educator, and I'm stoked to be chatting with you. Let's make history. Welcome to another episode of the Music Journal podcast. So if you follow the drama behind music at all, specifically in hip hop, you may have heard this dude that I have on the show today. His name is Dame Ritter. He was one of the co-founders of the label Funk Volume, which he started with Hopsin, but after a fallout between the two of them, they've parted ways. It's kind of unfortunate because the first time I'd actually honestly ever heard the name Dame Ritter was during the Funk Volume fallout, but he's doing some really cool stuff right now, and I'm stoked to have him on the show to share some of it. Dame, thanks for being on the show, man.
Oh, my pleasure, man. Happy to be here.
So I talked a little bit about the whole Funk Volume thing, but do you want to just let everybody know what you're up to now?
Sure. So I'm actually working on a number of things. I think my passion project at the moment is something called the Music Entrepreneur Club. And that's an online music business education and networking platform. We meet with artists on a weekly basis live via Zoom, and there's a different topic each week. And it's just really, it's become apparent to me and super obvious that, you know, one of the things that's wrong about the music industry is there's just a lot of bad information out there.
Yeah, facts.
And even the issues that I've had with an artist in the past, I think some of it is rooted in just the lack of education and just not understanding how the business works. So that kind of accelerated my passion for it, because we were already sharing information even when Funk Volume existed. Like, I held some virtual conferences and we did some dope stuff as we were learning the business and kind of applying the things we were learning to be successful in building the label. But now I've just kind of taken it to another level because I've seen firsthand how the lack of knowledge can really contribute to the demise of something great. So we meet with artists on a weekly basis. It's mostly artists, producers, aspiring managers, label owners. I meet with them every Monday and there's a different topic. And I typically have a guest speaker. And then Tuesday, the partners in the business, Music Entrepreneur Club is Kato and DJ Payne One. They're both dope producers. Tuesdays is a more producer specific session, and they do something similar to what I do on Mondays. But I figure it's a super accessible platform. It's super cheap. It's only $10 a month. And it's been really dope. I've been able to leverage my network to bring on some really cool guests to share their knowledge as well, so that you're not just getting my perspective. But since the industry changes and evolves so much, I think it's important to have a platform where we're having a continuous dialogue and we can adjust and respond and talk about some of the changes, whether it's algorithm change or new social network or a new service. So that's kind of been my passion project and what I've been promoting most heavily publicly. And then in addition to that, I work with a company called Foundation Media. We do music distribution, so I still work with artists to put out projects. And I also do some consulting with a text marketing company called Fan Connect that'll be launching an app fairly soon. And then I recently committed to something that I said I wouldn't do anymore, and that's manage an artist. So I work with an artist named Futuristic. He's based out of Phoenix, and we got some really cool things brewing there.
Futuristic is dope, dude. I had no idea that you guys were connected.
Yeah. He hit me up recently and said he needed some help. He had a plan, and I had never even really heard an artist say plan, much less have like one written down and a lot of the music already done that he wants to release next year. So
is it a breath of fresh air?
Yeah, man. It's like
an organization.
Yeah. I mean, I tried because I come from a more organized background, more professional background. So I tried to bring that to Funk Volume to the extent that I could. But sometimes it's rough working with certain artists. But being able to have a little bit more professionalism, you know, having Futuristic call me back and email me back, all the little things that kind of can help, you know, really propel what you're doing. It is definitely at least so far, it's been a breath of fresh air for sure.
Yeah, it's real. You bring up a lot of really good points. I think one of the important things too, just about the whole music entrepreneur club thing that you're doing, is the fact that you actually bring in people who do what they teach. Because there's a lot of people I see out there who are, I guess, trying to teach things that they haven't really practiced on their own. So I don't really see how they could successfully teach someone how to do something that they haven't even figured out how to do and gone through the whole trial and error process. So I think that's dope. I want to cycle back before we talk about the whole like being an entrepreneur thing, because it seems like you're a pretty successful entrepreneur, obviously. I'm curious how you got into the whole music industry to begin with. Do you rap or do you make music or anything, or how did that whole thing come about?
No, not at all. So in 2008, so I was in the corporate world. When I graduated from college in 2002, I worked for Wells Fargo, I worked for Goldman Sachs. I was in the financial services industry, and then I pressed the reset button and went back to business school. Got my MBA from Stanford. So still no music. Didn't think I was going to be in the music industry at all. But I went to work for Deloitte Consulting, which is a management consulting firm, and I worked there for about a year, and then I got laid off. So
Was
when
that
I got,
'08 or something?
yeah, that was '08. Yep. And then
Gotcha.
and then it just so happened my younger brother hit me up and was like, Dame, he was going to UC Irvine at the time. And he was like, Dame, I'm not really feeling school. It's kind of bouncing around from major to major. And he was like, I want to drop out and do music. And then he had a friend of his he went to high school with, which was Hopsin, who was equally as frustrated, but in a different situation. He was signed to Ruthless Records at the time.
Hmm.
He wanted to start his own thing, so we kind of all got together and figured out I'll kind of help out from the business side, and they would handle the creative side, and we just kind of figure this thing out, and that's ultimately how it started.
So I know this, but Dame's brother is actually Swizz, who was a pretty big rapper back in the day. He hasn't put anything out recently, has he?
Nah, but he's supposed to be working on new stuff, so hopefully he'll be another artist that I work with, continue to work with.
Yeah, for sure. Do you mind if I ask what he's been up to?
I mean, he's
Personal.
still been doing music. People still reach out to him to collab on music. He works out heavy. He's a super vegan.
No
Um,
way. Are you?
I don't eat meat, but I'm not a vegan, so I'll
Okay.
have
You're
some,
vegetarian?
yeah. So I'll have a dairy. I'll have some dairy every once in a while, some eggs or something like that. But
Yeah, fuck it.
yeah,
I was talking to someone about this last night. I try to do my best to observe a plant-based diet just for health purposes and the environment and shit. But I think it's weird that this is totally not music related, but I think it's weird that you could be totally vegan for 6 days of the week and not seven, and technically still not be in that category of vegan. But
yeah.
totally digress.
I don't. No, it's all good. No, I don't mind not putting a label on. I try to be as healthy as I can. It's just when I
Like,
travel, if you're traveling, it's sometimes difficult, to find stuff that's strictly vegan. So, I minimize the dairy and try to eat all plant based diet, but sometimes I slip up. And I recently started intermittent fasting too, so that's kind
no
of
shit.
another layer of you know dietary restrictions into the mix, and that's been cool so far.
Yeah, you're a busy guy too. I mean, it's 8 a.m. where you are, and you just jumped on the podcast. Have you found that diet or like restricting your diet has helped you kind of stay focused on things that are important and kind of maintain energy levels? Or what do you think are the positive aspects to fasting and being a vegetarian?
Yeah, I mean, I've always kind of worked out. Matter of fact, I woke up at 5 today. Me and my friends, we get our workouts in at 5:30 every morning.
Dope.
But I've always think it's important to maintain a healthy lifestyle. Watching what you eat, making sure you're working out, keeping your mind and body in shape, because I think it just helps. It helps everything else that you're doing.
Yeah.
Helps you stay focused, help you stay energized throughout the day. It's super important. It's one of my 5 things that I preach to young people that they need to do in order to be successful, and that's taking care of your mind and body for sure.
Yeah, facts. I just mixed and mastered an album for this guy Kyle Bent, who actually ironically he went on tour with Hopsin and Joyner Lucas and Token. I forget what the tour was called, but I think it was still during the Funk Volume days. But I worked on him with this whole album, so we got to know each other pretty well. And he also does intermittent fasting, and he said something that I thought was really profound. He was telling me that he compares his body to like a pond, and if you have a pond and then all the bacteria and shit gets into it, the water gets infected with all the shit that you wouldn't want in your body, and your body is 70% water. So he says that by fasting, he sweats it out and he kind of gets all of the, I guess, like shitty things that you don't want in your body out. There's no way I'm saying it as well as he did when he described it to me. But basically, he said that was his reason for doing that. And he's also a pescatarian. I've definitely found that people who kind of observe these dietary restrictions do have sharper minds, and they have really good work ethics. Typically, is what I've noticed. So, dude, I think that's dope.
Yeah, no, and I'm not a scientist. I can't break everything down to you. So I'm not going to get on my soapbox just yet, but I'm continuing to learn in terms of, with intermittent fasting, it's kind of it increases, I think, your human growth hormone. It just helps, especially when you're working out, you're kind of in survivor mode, and it just helps your work. What they say is that it when you work out, it's like, multiple times more impactful when you're in kind of a survival mode. And I can't tell you all the scientific, breakdown of what it does. But as I learn more, I'll definitely get up more on my soapbox and start start tweeting. I think that's one of the problems we have today is like people learn one thing and then, they'll get on Twitter and claim they're an expert. I'll let you know I'm intermittent fasting and just kind of, why I do it, but I can't get on my soapbox just yet. But
Yeah, total disclaimer. I also cheated through chemistry in high school. I had a friend who used to write all the answers in the corner of the test and then rip it off and then hand it to me, and then I'd hide it in my calculator and I'd go take the test or whatever. But it kind of makes sense if you think about it too, because if you think about where like the survival instincts come from, it's from evolution in our past. And I mean, back then they didn't have stovetops and shit like that, and like ovens and like farms to get meat from. So they were largely eating plant-based diets. So I think it makes sense if I think about it, but I'm not a scientist either, so I'm not really sure.
right.
To I guess kind of cycle back to music and entrepreneurship, I'm curious what your take is on like the balance between being an entrepreneur and a musician. I actually watched an interview of you kind of recently talking about the Hopsin thing, and you were talking about how I think it's relatable to a lot of artists, so I don't want to like say any names, but a lot of people don't really like doing the whole PR thing and doing the whole marketing thing. And they have a really, really good work regimen when it comes to actually making the music. So how do you, I guess, find the balance between the two?
I mean, it's something that I think you just have to do. I mean, unless you're at a level of like a Kendrick or a Cole or even like a Chance the Rapper or somebody like that, who your name's already there and people are going to be talking about you whether you're putting out music or not for one reason or another. For up and coming independent artists, I think it's super important to stay visible, to stay present, if you want to continue to grow. And that's just, there is no choice. Like you have to do it. If you want to maximize the potential success of your art, there's just no way around it. So yeah, it's super important that you get out there and promote and continue to push your brand and tell your story.
Yeah, it's real. Plus I feel like all the Kendricks and the Chances and especially the Futuristics, they all did that in the beginning until they eventually got to a point where they didn't have to do it on their own. Correct me
Yeah.
if I'm wrong.
Even Futuristic, he's gonna have to. I mean, he's not at that level yet, So he's there. There still is a certain amount of marketing. Well, depending on where you want to go in your career. Like if you aspire to have a Drake level career or a Chance the Rapper career or one of these bigger artists that are doing stadiums, then it's something that you're gonna have to continue to work towards. However, if you just want if you just love music and you're cool with your fan base where it's at and you want to just keep giving them what they want, you can have a more withdrawn
Lifestyle.
Presence, yeah,
Yeah.
lifestyle. And that's what's dope about today's music industry. Like, depending on what your goal is, like you can create the environment that you're comfortable in. There's artists that I know that don't even like to tour, that don't really have to, because their streaming numbers are up and they're making good money from streaming. Now they're not millionaires, but they're comfortable, and they've created how they've created a space for how they want to be in music. So that's what's dope about today's music industry. It's you can create the environment that you want. If there's certain things you don't like to do, then you might not have to do them, but you'll just know that you might maintain the same level of success.
Yeah, ultimately you get out of it what you put into it. I think about that a lot. I feel like there's definitely a balance to it. Like there's a sweet spot for everybody, and everybody's sweet spot is a little different when it comes to, I guess, their level of celebrity. So if you want to be like a Drake and be selling out stadiums, it definitely comes at a price. You'll get a little bit more money or a lot more money, but it also kind of takes a little bit of sacrifice as well, because now everybody knows who you are. But if you want to be a little more low key, you're gonna make a little bit less money probably, but you get to kind of live a more reserved lifestyle. So everybody's sweet spot is different, I think. So if you want to be a futuristic, you could be a futuristic. If you want to be a Drake or a Kendrick, that's definitely in the realm of possibility as well, right?
For sure. And that's why I don't like when all these artists complain, because it's like you can create, how if you say you only want to do shows on Mondays and Thursdays, like you can create that environment if the demand is there. So all these artists that are complaining about their situation, or complaining that their body's worn out from doing too much, it's like you signed up for this.
Yeah,
You
right.
know?
That's
Um,
real.
you can create a different lifestyle. It's just going to come with a little less money, a little less success, but you'll be able to go to the movies when you want. I think I heard Chance talk about it recently in the Joe Budden podcast. Like he's about to get married, he has a family, and
Mhm.
he doesn't do things he doesn't want to do, because he's now at a point where he can do whatever it is that he wants. When he wants to release music, he'll release music. When he wants to go on SNL, he'll go on SNL. It's like
Yeah,
there's
that's a beautiful thing too.
yeah. So, people on the independent level, even though Chance is doing that on a much larger scale, like you can recreate that same type of environment on a lower scale.
Definitely. Definitely. And then it takes time to build too. So then eventually, if you want to get to that chance level, you can totally do that as well.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if everybody can do it, but you can try.
In theory, anybody can do it. I have this theory, man, that anybody can do it, because if you think about like what it takes to I guess let's take like the piano for example. Like if somebody wants to play the piano, the only difference between like the top pianist and somebody who doesn't play at all is the ability to move their fingers like a couple milliseconds faster, like a couple millimeters in a different direction. But it's true that to do that small difference takes decades of practice and work and 10,000 hours. So
For
yeah.
sure. For
Um,
sure.
one thing you were talking about was the whole thing about artists complaining, and I know you're kind of like anti negativity. Where did that mantra come from, if you don't mind me asking?
Um, I I don't know. I mean, I think I just see, like, because I'm not from the music industry, right? So I came from the corporate world. So
Mhm.
everything that I saw, I was seeing for like the first time. And there's a lack of structure in the music industry. There's people that jump into the music industry with all different types of backgrounds. Some people have had a past like mine and then jump in. Some people haven't. Some people got a random viral hit, and then all of a sudden now they have a little bit of traction, but they know nothing about the music industry and the people are surrounding them. They don't know what they do or why they're there. It's just sometimes people do get taken advantage of. um, but
Happens
it's
all the
not
time.
it does, but it's very simple. Like any other industry, you're going to be required to go through some level of education in order to be in that industry, work in that industry.
Yeah,
So
for
I
sure.
don't understand why people would think the music industry, even though it's not required, why it shouldn't be any different. Um, So, and it doesn't, we have so many resources, the Music Entrepreneur Club being a great one, but there's so many other resources out there, whether you want to go to school, there are podcasts that are dope, there are Hypebot, there's all kind of websites that you can get real information. So when I see people complain about the music industry, it just like I just it's weird to me because I've never seen that. You're not taking the time to learn about the industry. You're not taking the time to learn about the industry that you say you want a career in. That's crazy to me. Because I've never seen that in any other industry, that I've been in. Um,
Interesting.
and most of the so there's more complaining. Lawyers don't complain because they know what they got to do. They gotta go to college. They gotta go to college, go to law school, pass the bar, and become a lawyer. So you can't complain. The rules is set up. You
Right,
know.
right.
Um, so yeah, I could probably go on for a while, but it is frustrating sometimes. I see all these young people, and it's like you don't even know, what it would be like to pursue another career because you wouldn't be able to get away with all of this like pointing fingers at other people and not looking in the mirror, you know.
I think that's a solid point. There's definitely aspects that I like about the fact that you don't have to have a formal education in music, as somebody who's had a lot of formal education in music.
Mhm.
But I think there is a level of accountability that comes with other industries just because it is so structured and kind of set up for you. So, dude, that makes a lot of sense. I never thought about it like that. Um, yeah, do you have a crazy story from either the corporate world or being in music or anything?
I don't know about a crazy story. I mean, I've dealt with artists that do things that I never thought that I would work with people that would do these type of things. Where I guess what immediately jumps to mind is just Hobson just leaving a tour, just leaving his tour in the middle of, I think we were in Colorado, and he just decided to leave. And it's like I've never worked with anybody that would like leave a responsibility, especially something that large where it's like it's your tour.
Mm,
So
yeah,
that was
it's a serious offense.
so that's definitely weird and awkward. It's like, how do you deal with that? Like, I've never, been in a situation where, like say in the corporate world, if we had a big presentation, I've never had like a team member just leave.
Yeah.
You know?
He made a song about it too, didn't he? I don't remember it, but I think I remember something like that coming out. Was
Yeah, it's crazy
Is he
too
on it?
because it's like when you make the song about it, like it's easy now for like artists to like have these cheat codes and play the victim and like pepper in things that weren't true to make it sound like he was the victim. And it's actually, I mean, it's definitely a cheat code. To me, it's kind of sick. Um, but it's like you were just irresponsible, but now you've switched it in a way where it's like there was too much pressure on you, and and now you're the victim, and so it's actually kind of sick. And I didn't really listen to that song like that because
Mm,
it wasn't
right.
it wasn't a true reflection of what happened, similar to the song that was directed towards me, has this ability to just play the victim,
Mm.
kind of like Donald Trump. Um, you know,
Facts. That's a
so
whole nother podcast that we can do.
for,
Um, I
for
definitely I definitely don't doubt that he felt that way as somebody who wasn't even there, but it doesn't necessarily mean that the feelings were accurate. Um,
no, you can
and I
have.
would I would argue that you were the victim of Ill Mind 8 and the fans were the victim of him leaving the tour.
Yeah, I mean, I guess don't get me wrong. Like, there definitely is. I'm not an artist myself, but I can understand the pressure. But again, you sign up for it. Like,
Yeah.
nobody says, "Hey, you have to go on tour." Nobody says, "Hey, you have to even pursue this life." You can do something totally different.
Yeah,
Um,
that's true.
I've just never been around people that kind of back out of commitments because I try to definitely be a man of my word. I try to be professional, and just carry myself like I was taught that a man should. Um, and I just never had been around or kept people in my circle that didn't have similar values. So it's just something I just didn't understand. I just, so I just didn't really know how to respond to stuff like that.
Yeah, I hear you. I'm a big believer in karma, so I think what you put out is what you get back. So I think for that reason, you've been very successful, and I think you'll continue to be very successful because you do hold yourself to that level of accountability and you have those values. What is the biggest lesson, I guess, you learned from that whole funk volume thing? And I guess what would you advise to anybody listening? I guess to avoid a catastrophe like that happening to them, because I mean it happens all the time in business where you work with people and then it doesn't work out at a certain point. It's like a relationship, like you break up sometimes, but sometimes you marry and it works out perfectly. So I guess what would you recommend?
Even so, it all comes down, I think, to in part to communication. Because I didn't even think we had that many issues. Things were
Mhm.
going well. I mean, the tour in 2015, it went well. It didn't go as well as we all thought it would go because we thought we would just be selling out every show. And from the outside looking in, you wouldn't have known that we were disgruntled in any way.
Mhm.
But when things kind of crashed and burned, and I told, and we had a discussion after the tour in which I mentioned that he didn't work that hard. Like it just went from 2 to 10 like super quick, So probably there were things brewing. There might have been people getting in his ear about certain things.
Mhm.
We maybe should have just had better communication. And we had weekly calls and things like that. But if honestly, and I could have reacted a certain way and tried to keep things going, but I think ultimately it was part of his plan to it was kind of just looking for a way to get out of the situation. For whatever reason, he was
Interesting.
frustrated, or just kind of use funk volume now to to create a thing and kind of propel and get him some attention. But then it's like, okay,
At the
you
expense of everybody else.
yeah, it's like, and I just don't think he's ever really understood the value of that foundation, the value of those real relationships that we had. Like, I
Mhm.
don't know how he viewed us, but if I have somebody on my team that I care about, like, it's not just a business relationship. Like Dizzy and Jaren, like they all thought Funk Volume was a family. That's how we all looked at it. I guess with the exception of him, that it was pretty, just kind of expendable. So it was just kind of a shock that it went from 2 to 10 so fast and everything was over so fast because it wasn't like there was like anything major. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Nobody was stealing anything. Nobody was sleeping with anybody's girl. Like nothing crazy. I think
Well,
he
you
was.
you
Go ahead.
can you can talk every week and still not be communicating. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
you can be talking and going through the motions, but I was talking to someone about this the other day. Like she was telling me that like she never like gets like really mad, but she'll like let little things like build up with her roommates or whatever, and then like they'll do one thing here, and then they'll do one thing here, and then it builds up, and then one day like they'll do something little, but then since there's been all this build up, she'll like suddenly like lash out, and then she looks crazy because to their perspective she just like lashed out this one like little thing, but in reality it was this buildup of a lot of other things and the accumulation and the fact that there was no communication behind it. So
Yeah, no, I think you're exactly right because he definitely is not somebody that if he has something that's bothering, he's not going to initiate a conversation. Matter of fact, he's going to do the exact opposite and just kind of be stonewalled or not reach out or block your number or something like that. So I'm sure it was an accumulation of things, but then it also goes back to, just a lack of knowledge because, about the Music Entrepreneur Club, we're teaching artists about the music industry so they can make the right moves. But what's equally as important is learning the industry so that you can value the people that you're going to need to support you. Right. So
mhm.
if you don't know like what a manager is supposed to do or what a tour manager is supposed to do or what a business manager is supposed to do, if you don't know exactly what these players do, then you won't know how to differentiate a good one versus a bad one because just
Right.
like there's good and bad artists. There's good and bad managers, good and bad. And if you don't know that, you're just going to think that every position is plug and play. Right. So
Right.
if something does if something does frustrate you, you can just look around and be like, well, I can just get a new one of these. I'm the person that captains this ship and makes things go. Like, I do everything, and I could just get a new assistant. I can get a new tour manager. I can get everything, and we can be doing the exact same thing. And that's not necessarily true. And that's not to say that I'm the only person that could have done what I did for Funk Volume, but you can't just replace me with anybody. You can't just replace our tour manager with anybody. You're going to have a different experience on tour if you don't have a good tour manager, or if you don't got a good accountant. So that's why it's super important for artists to learn the business as well, because you have to respect and value the people that you're going to need, that keep you up, that support you, and that's your foundation.
Yeah, seriously, it's totally essential. And just I guess kind of add to it, if you don't educate yourself prior, I think it's really easy to get burned at some point. And then you can either learn the easy way, which is to take the time now to join something like the Music Entrepreneur Club, or do your research and do your homework and talk to people, or you can wait until it's too late and something unfortunate happens that could be potentially career ending. Hopefully not, knock on wood.
Yeah.
Yeah, Dame, it's almost our time, unfortunately, but there is one question I ask at the end of every show, and I'm curious what your answer is going to be. If you had unlimited money, no strings attached, what would you do and why?
Unlimited money, what would I do and why? It would probably be something in education, man. I love what LeBron's doing in Akron with his school. I've always been a part of education in some way. Even when I was in college, I mentored young people. And actually, when I moved back because I was in Chicago when I was working for Deloitte, and when I got laid off, and then I moved back to LA, and that's when we started Funk Volume. So even while Funk Volume was kind of getting built, I was a substitute teacher to kind of help, help pay my own bills. So it would definitely be something in education, but I would probably be doing a ton of different things, because it's just always been in my nature to work on several projects at once. So, but education would be a big part of it for sure.
Yeah, that's fucking dope, dude. Do you want to let everybody know where they can find you and maybe join the Music Entrepreneur Club if they're interested?
Sure. So you can find me on Twitter, Dame_MEC, and on Instagram, Dame.MEC. And if you'd like to check out the Music Entrepreneur Club, just go to musicentrepreneurclub.com. Everybody that signs up gets 2 weeks free, so you can check it out risk-free. I don't think you will cancel it. It's super valuable information. A lot of really dope guests, founders of apps and just entrepreneurs, successful artists. It's a lot of people that come to the table, share a lot of dope information. So check it out, musicentrepreneurclub.com.
Dame, thanks for being on the Music Journal.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of The Music Journal. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you got a lot out of it. If you want to know more about me and what I do, I just put out a personal EP on Spotify. You can go to bit.ly/Wes Yee Spotify. And if you want to know more about music production, I teach an online course about it too. Just shoot an email to wes@homestudiohits.com and I'll send you an application. Just for filling out the application, I'll send you a free sample pack of sounds I use to make the instrumental you're listening to, and more. All these links will be available in the show notes, so you can check them out there. And while you're there, if you feel inclined to rate this show 5 stars, that would really help me out. Other than that, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss an episode. Thanks again. Peace.